The Federal and Francis Xavier Engineering College jointly present the Nellai Marathon 2024. This event is powered by Little Flower Public School and NIMS Hospital, Tirunelveli. Run for Health on Sunday, December 29. Entry is free and all are welcome. Modi is set to visit Kuwait this weekend. He will be the first Indian Prime Minister to visit the country in 4 decades. I have senior journalist Sridhar Krishnaswamy, who specializes in foreign affairs, to explain us this state visit. Thank you for joining, Sridhar. My first question to you is, what do you think caused the 43-year gap between Indian Prime Ministerial visits to Kuwait, and does it indicate a shift in priorities in India's foreign policy?
Well, thank you, Nisha. Wonderful to be here on your show. You have to understand what has happened in the Middle East since the last time an Indian Prime Minister visited Kuwait. That was Mrs. Indira Gandhi in 1981, if my memory holds right. And then you had the Iran-Iraq war that went on the whole of 80s and into the 90s. And then you had the Saddam Hussein invasion of Kuwait that took 1990 to 1991. So the entire region was up in smoke, as what you might say. And so that is not exactly a time when any prime minister or any leader of any country would want to visit a troubled part of the world or a troubled part of the neighborhood. So you have to see that in that context. Now, take it out of the context, you see that Kuwait has been a very critical friend of India for many, many decades, or ever since we normalized relations with that country in 1962. But Kuwait is economically a major partner of India because we are dependent on crude and oil and gas resources. And don't forget, we have a huge expatriate population in Kuwait, numbering more than 1 million, or close to about 18 to 20% of the Kuwaiti population. So we have a number of interests there. And so if Mr. Modi, the Prime Minister, is visiting Kuwait, it does not reflect a paradigm shift in Indian foreign policy. Rather, he is going there to that part of the world to strengthen India's relationship. And the Middle East is becoming increasingly important, not just for economic resources, but also from a strategic point of view.
What has changed in the India-Kuwait relationship over the past 4 decades, and is this visit significant at all?
This visit is definitely significant because earlier question we were talking about what happened in the Middle East in the 80s and the 90s. Now roll the camera forward. What is happening in the Middle East today? You have a lot of a troubling situation there. You have the situation in the West Bank, Gaza. You have Iran. Generally you have a Middle East that is on the boil because you don't know what the next steps the major actors there are going to do. For example, if you read the Middle Eastern media or the Israeli press, everybody talks about the Hamas and the Israeli state on the verge of coming to a ceasefire. Now, they've been talking about a ceasefire for quite a long time. And India is a major actor in that part of the world. It is not as if we have forgotten the Palestinian issue. India will never forget the Palestinian issue because we have always supported the legitimate cause of the Palestinians. And we have always pushed for a two-state solution. So here, Mr. Modi is going at a time when there are increasing calls in the international community for India to step up to the plate and play a more active role in the West Bank Gaza crisis. Now, the extent, just for the simple reason that we have very good equations with the Arab world and we have good relationship with the Israelis. But that does not mean that we can step in and try to be some sort of a mediator. See, for a mediation role to fructify, you need both the parties to agree to India playing a role. And you also have to have in mind that both parties must listen to what New Delhi is saying. You can't clap with one hand in the Middle East.
In your answer to my first question, you said that Kuwait is important for India not only for economic reasons but also for strategic reasons. So, can you please explain how India views its strategic and economic relationship with Kuwait, especially regarding energy and trade ties?
No, when I said, security, I'm talking about economic security. I'm not talking about any arms transfers. I'm not talking about that. But, Kuwait is in the Gulf, and Kuwait is in an area that is increasingly vulnerable to a lot of extraneous acts. Freedom of navigation. You see, it's one thing for India to keep buying oil from Kuwait or from the Middle East. But it's another thing for India to be able to bring that oil safely through the Straits of Hormuz or through the Malacca or through the Andamans. We have to be able to facilitate the movement. So freedom of navigation becomes very, very critical. And we are talking about Kuwait. I think Kuwait is the top 10 of the list of countries that India buys petroleum products from. And we have a bilateral trade close to about 10 to 11 billion US dollars. But going beyond that, you have to look at the stability of economics. As I said, I don't mean to repeat, it's one thing to be able to buy oil, and it's totally a different thing to be able to bring that oil to your shores. And for that, we need a modicum of peace. We need stability. We cannot have disruption in the tankers plying across the vital sea lanes. So that is how Kuwait is very important to India.
The Federal and Francis Xavier Engineering College jointly present the LA Marathon 2024. This event is powered by Little Flower Public School and NIMS Hospital, Tirunelveli. Run for Health on Sunday, December 29. Entry is free and all are welcome.